anybody can do anything they put their mind to. Um, if you believe in God, God will get you there. Now, He might not get you there the way that you want to be, okay?
Grab your 5-in-1s, open up the paint cans, and let's get 2 coats deep. I'm Brandon, the host of the episode today, and we have a great guest, Nick Kelly from Elite Painting here in Southeast Michigan. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Thank you so much for having me on, Brandon, man. It's a pleasure. I actually watched the last 2 episodes and was really excited about hopping on here with you today. So,
Dude, it's an honor. I've been following you for a long time on socials. You've been a straight gangster with all the content. I love a
appreciate it.
lot of the energy you bring. You could feel it literally from your website to your Facebook to your personal Facebook, man. Like for people who don't know you, you want to give them a little intro?
Yeah, so I'm Nick, just a union painter, man. That's where I came from. Funny story. I own Elite Paint Home Renovations, also Elite Brick and Masonry. That's our sister company that we started last year. Um, we're doing pretty good for ourselves. We did about 3.6 million in revenue last year in the paint business. Did a little over 1.2 in our first year for the brick company.
Sheesh.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. But I always just say I'm a painter, man. You know, I'm like one of the guys we meet more. So I didn't start in business. I was a painter who just didn't get my way and decided to start my own thing, pretty much.
Hell
So
yeah.
yeah,
That's a inspiring story. 3.5 in the painting. Holy shit, dude. And
yeah.
then you started a masonry company. What sparked the masonry?
So
Can you pause real quick? Can you pull your mic up just a
yep,
little bit? When you leave, stop someone from the car
a little bit better.
there you go.
Okay, cool. So, funny story is, I consider him my brother, but he's my partner with the brick side, right? I knew about brick before I knew about painting, right? So
Interesting.
that was like very big in our area. So when we were coming up, I knew, at least four of my buddies owned brick companies. So I knew the profit margins and thing. I mean, I didn't know it was called a profit margin at the time, let's be real.
Yeah.
But I knew that there was a lot of profit to be made in brick, and kind of the structure. I actually did some canvassing for a brick company when I was way younger, like 15 years old. I used to knock doors and try and get them to let the salesman come out and sell jobs, right? So that was like my introduction,
You
I
were the
guess, to
setter.
sales. Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
So the sales, but so my brother had kind of seen what I was doing with Elite, which I call my brother, but my partner Lewis, seen what I was doing with the paint company, and he had had a death in his family, and the drive to, I guess, expand and make things bigger, right? Kind of was dead in the water. He started going from, having full weeks to 3 days. He just needed a little bit of, he wanted some of my structure. He wanted some of the motivation. So we dissolved his company. I made Elite Brick and Masonry, brought him on as my partner. He's the operations manager. And it's been a blessing since then.
Dude, that is freaking awesome. As
Yeah.
far as like the labor, have you done any of the labor for the brickland?
No, what's funny is in our first year, I only stopped at 2 jobs last year.
Dude, that is
That was
awesome.
it. So he took care of everything. I really built all the systems out, which everyone always says your second company is always going to be way easier than your first because you've learned from the first company, right?
Oh yeah.
So a lot of the little, I guess, hiccups that happen at first, right? You can kind of strive through it. You know exactly what you're looking for. So when I built out like, the systems for this, it was a lot easier, like, because when I was first building systems, like I remember like watching Ask a Painter, Nick Slavic, like
Oh
that
yeah.
was my introduction to SOPs, right? And, at first they were a lot structured like his, and then I kind of found my own groove as I started making them. So that's why I think we were pretty successful. I mean, it was very easy. I mean, we had literally like one problem client all last year. And the only thing that we kind of went through was we hired some guys, we got some, good masons, but they were not head masons at their last employer, right? So there's a little bit of stress to that. Like you have to come to work every day if you're a lead mason, right? Like the laborers can't do what you do, right?
Nothing.
So that responsibility, we had a great guy for, almost 3 quarters of the season, and he just couldn't like do where he's like, oh, I can't come in on Monday, and we're like, dude, like we need you to do that job. Like we'd be here Tuesday, and his back was, and he just couldn't take the responsibility, so I ended up quitting. So what we did this year was we found more partners rather than lead masons, because I'm so crazy about the quality of any project, whether it be brick, whether it be painting. I want it to be done well, right, and for it to last a long time. Like that's just important to me. And what we found was it was really hard to find a really good lead mason without like stealing them from another company. And us knowing the people in the industry, it would have looked real shitty of us to go and be like, hey man, we'll offer you $5 more an hour to come over here. So what we ended up doing was a lot of our buddies ended up splitting off and doing their own like smaller outfits.
Okay.
And we brought them on as partners this year, and we are crushing it up until this point this year. So it's worked out really
I
good.
love it. A lot of masons have a hard time in the winter. There's not a lot of stuff, at least here in the Midwest.
Right.
Lots of snow, crappy weather. Got to, put the tarps out and then heat up the area. I'm
Yeah.
sure you kind of learned a lot about that.
Oh, 100%.
Funny story. I actually, before I started my painting company, I was in the Bricklayers Union.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this resonated with me a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll never forget 20 shovels of sand per mortar bag. So when I talk about work ethic, that trade is actually what instilled it into me. So you got to work your ass off all the time. The guys, the head masons, they're in that warm tarped area, right?
Yeah.
But the little bitches, the
Yeah,
apprentices,
yeah.
got to go do 20 shovels of sand and the buckets of water to mix the mortar. And it really gets me thinking about like analogies and about how brick by brick, you hear that from Will Smith, you hear it from a lot of these motivational guys.
Yeah.
And when you actually are putting the bricks up, you can metaphorically see it happening too.
Yeah.
And when I look back to that time of my life, it actually built more character than most of the things I've done so far. This makes it where, dropping my daughter off early and making sure getting here on time.
Yeah.
It makes it easy, man.
100%.
Makes it easy.
Yeah, I would say like, business in general is not easy. Even if you go to school for business, I feel like they teach you so much, but there's nothing like hands-on learning. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it always looks, and I loved Satori said this on the last show, like it looks great. Oh, they're doing great. Oh, all these things. And it's like behind the scenes, like there's some turmoil. I mean, there are some days, where I'm wearing all the hats at first, right? Which like now I look back and I'm like, I did that with such grace, I feel like way back. I think about it now because I got all these people in different positions doing different things, right? Delegated to. And I'm just like, man, how did I do all of that? But there are some nights where like, I went home and, I'm a big family guy. So like after spending time with my kids, playing with them, getting in the shower before I hang out with my wife, because I make sure I make time for her as well. And then once all of them go to sleep, it's time for me. You know what I'm saying? But just leaning against the shower, I know you can relate to this, where you have the highs where you're like, this was the best decision ever, right? And then you're like literally just letting water run down you and you're like, why am I doing, like, why did I choose to do this over just working for someone else?
Yeah,
some
like how am
days?
I gonna make payroll? How am I gonna get Susan all kosher?
It's always Susan. I always say Susan is always the one. I never like, I'll be honest with you. The one thing that I was very good at, from the beginning, even before I knew like what gross profit and everything was, I knew what my run rate was, like what I needed to be profitable and make what I wanted to. Especially when you're smaller, it's really easy. Like, hey, here's the material. Here's what I'm spending in my one marketing endeavor that I might be doing, because I was running my own Facebook ads for the first year of my business. So it's very easy for me to be like, okay, this is what my payroll is. This is what my expenses are, right? Because there wasn't that many expenses, right? The trucks that I didn't have any trucks my first year. Everybody was meeting at the jobs. I didn't have a shop, right? So it's just those few things. So I was like, okay, well, this is what my payroll is every week. This is what my expenses are. What do I want to make on top of that? You know what I mean? So for when I first started out, it was, dude, real easy for me to be profitable because I was a pretty good salesman. I didn't know it at the time, because I like had just really sold jobs doing side work when I was working in the union, because I was a union painter and my wife was a stay-at-home mom because I have 5 kids, right? So I had to make more money. So I would go work in the union, I always tried to take the 5 a.m. start times, and I did that on purpose because I'd be done by 1. And if I skipped lunch, I'd be done a little bit earlier, right? And then I could go and do a side job for 3 or 4 hours and make more than what I was
The whole
making
week.
per week. Yeah. In the union, right? So that was like one of the big things. So like, When I talk to my guys and stuff at our company, I've lived that life. Like I've worked 10 to 12 hours, 5 days a week for years. You know what I'm saying? Never complained about it at all because I didn't want to have just enough money to pay the bills. I wanted my kids to be able to do some things if they wanted to, buy a new grill if I needed it, right? You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. And I mean, the union paid the bills, but it sure wasn't getting me a new grill. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Yeah.
Amen. The union is a sticky situation. I believe they're great for some people and horrible for others. If you don't like to take those breaks, those mandatory 15-minute breaks, and one person on your crew decides, hey, I'm taking my break, you all have to take it. It's such a pain in the ass,
Yeah,
man.
I think it really depends on who you work for, though. I was very blessed, to be honest with you. And I always say, God has helped me throughout all this. He puts me in the position to be where I need to be. But when that came, I had a great group of people I worked for, like old heads, 20, 15, 20 years, 25 years. And the thing that was so nice about it was they weren't like the guys that were like worried about you taking their job. They were more so like, hey, you're going to be working with me. So I'm going to make sure you know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So that was like one of the biggest things for us when we first got like started was they taught me all these great things. So like I was a good painter when I got to the union, but I left the union a great painter. You know what I'm saying? Like not only great at that, like I learned how to mud really well there. I learned how to do specialty finishes, right? Like I knew about fine paints of Europe before everybody I felt like no one knew what I was talking about when I would mention it back in the day because we had to do like this bathroom and fine paints. We had to do all this trim package for the owner of the Pistons, Tom Gores. We did his Birmingham condos. They like knocked down every wall in 2 floors of condos and made it just his condo.
Dude, what was that project like?
Oh, dude, it's crazy. So it was 7 days a week. I think it was like 9 months, 9 to 12 month job. 11 designers were in there. And it was you'd be in the same room. So it's so funny. They had this guy come, and this is a funny story because I'll never forget it. So they had, we're doing all these press condensed pieces of cardboard to make them look like really cool trim packages, like the MDF stuff, right? So they had this guy come out there because there was tons of caulking these little creases, and the fine paints of Europe was a high gloss, right? So we had to make it like perfect. So we were redoing some areas because it just didn't look good enough for the glass finish, right? So they bring this guy out, and this is what the guy said. So we're all there for the training. It's like there's like 12 people there, and he's like, "All right, so." We were using, red glazed Bondo. So we put some on there, and he's like, "All right, so this is what you're gonna do." They call it the Stevie Wonder, and I'm like, "Okay, the Stevie Wonder. That's a funny name." He's like, "So I need you to just sand it right, and then close your eyes and run your hand up and down. And if you feel a bump, it has to get fixed." So I'm like, I raise my hand, I'm like, so you know how much trim there is in this condo on both floors, right? I'm like, so you're telling 12 guys that in order for us to make sure that this finish is good, we have to close our eyes and just wipe our hands over. And if we feel anything, we have to fix it. Like, that's a process there, buddy. And he's like, I wish I had something better for you. And I was like, okay. So, I mean, the trim, I remember we were prepping the trim for almost 45 days
Holy
just to
smokes.
get it ready to get shot, and then like dust contamination and stuff is a big thing for there. So we'd have the whole room ready to be sprayed sometimes in the morning, and come in an electrician bust through our cave or something like that. So we literally, they wouldn't let us, so we had to do something else for that whole day. So that happened like 3 days in a row, to the point where we had to have someone come there an hour before anyone was supposed to be on the job as like a security guard, like, no, you're not allowed in, right? So it was funny. I mean, but those are some of the projects. And the thing I can say about the company we work for that is a lot different than what I run now is they were like, I remember the first time I ever skim coated. They literally took me by myself. We would get to the job, and then our super Rob would come there and meet us at the job, right? And he just had a couple buckets of +3, a little, spinner, to mix it up. And he's like, all right, man, we're taking this vinyl wallpaper down, and we're gonna skim coat everything. And I just looked at him because I was like, dude, I never told you I could skim coat. And I'm like, so like, who else is coming here? And he's like, yeah, just you. He's like, so look, take this little roller, put a little bit of water in here, about this much in a bucket, put it, spin it in there, roll it on there, and then just pull it tight. And he left. And that was it. 40 rooms. And I was just like, okay, like when does this have to be done? How many hours do I have on this? Just to like make sure. So as soon as he left, I get on a phone call, a couple of the cats in the company. I'm like, well, never skim coated. This is what he has me doing. And they're like, dude, it's like riding a bike, bro. He's like, do this, do exactly what he said. He's like, about 3 rooms in, you'll kind of get your stuff going on. And I was like, okay.
It was your boot camp.
Yeah, I was like, okay. So, and they were right. About 3 rooms in, I had it down, and I mean, I got that job done on time and everything like that. But like, I've never done that for anybody with me. Like, it's a whole system out. We've trained them a little bit. We've, demonstrated how to do it, right?
Yep.
They were not like that, and there was a lot of things that like us sampling faux finishes, and no one like told us like how to sample them. Like we were just like trying to make this pattern, right? It always ended up turning out good and well, right? But it's just a whole different kind of learning. And I really think that that's why that got me so good at painting so quickly though, was that kind of like pushing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Do you believe that similar type of push that you did yourself for having to switch into sales helped with your sales role when you came into your own company?
So what's so funny is like, I've been to a few of Jason Phillips events, right? And he always says selling's not telling, it's asking questions, right? And I didn't do that at first. So I would still talk. I was really good at building rapport and getting people to like me. It was just like, even when it was about the job, I was very knowledgeable about the craft. I knew, the wrong practices to the right practices,
You're a
right?
likable guy.
Yes. So that really, and since I knew my stuff, they felt confident that we were going to do what we needed to do. But I lost a lot of projects like that because think about it. If you go in there and, let's say the lady's selling your house and I'm talking about all these bells and whistles, right? She's going to be like, dude, you're going to be way too expensive because I don't care about half the things that you just said, right? So I didn't realize, I mean, I had a decent closing ratio, but I was leaving so much meat on the bone. So that is what I would say I was pretty good at. But once I started kind of like going to these events and seeing how other people were selling, right? And finding the new lane of asking questions and getting that whole thing down. And just like totally reverting what has worked very well. I mean, I had a very successful outfit at that point in time selling how I was selling. So it was hard for me. And I went through a very dude, rough like 2 to 3 weeks, right? Where I didn't sell shit. Okay. And then in my head, I'm like, oh, these guys don't know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? Like I was selling so great without this, right? But it was just I had to keep doing the reps to figure out the framework of how I was going to go about it. And once I kind of figured it out, like how to have my same energy, ask those same questions and build that same rapport, it was a slam dunk, right? But it took a little bit. And I always say like a lot of people will try and change things that have worked, right? You just got to stay the course sometimes. I tell my sales guys that too. I've had bad weeks, and then the next week I went and popped off in one day $60,000, right? And that made that bad week not look so bad anymore,
And
right?
that sales high is crazy
Oh,
after that too.
yeah, 100%. So those are some of like the big things I will say, because I know you guys were talking about with Satori about the sales team. That is the hardest thing, building a sales team by far, even with the disc profiling, with the finding of the people and things of that nature. It's just tough, man, because sometimes you'll get people that you think should sit good in that seat, right? But it's like, what do they always say? You can bring the water to the horse, but the horse has to drink it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I probably butchered exactly how that was said, but basically that's the case, right? Well, like I can give them the script, um, but they have to do work at home like in order to make this successful, right? And that is one thing that I've seen is that, some people want to put in the work at work, but sometimes people have to put in the work outside of work in order for the next 3 to 5 years to look great for them, right? And sometimes people they can only see this far in front of their face, right? So they just want the quick high for this right now. Because I always tell them like this when I'm motivating. It's like, I'm going to teach you something that you'll be able to use for the rest of your life, whether it's with painting or something else. Like, I'm going to teach you how to sell. You know
Even
what
just
I mean?
conversational.
That's what I'm saying.
Selling is like an incredible skill to have.
Dude, it's awesome. Yeah. But the thing that's crazy is that, like, even project management, though, is one thing. And that's one thing my wife always tells me, not everybody thinks like you, Nick. Like, you think different, right? And that was very hard when I first got into business to realize, because, like, and I know you've thought this. Like, I didn't say it out loud, but like what, like, you know better than that. Like, come on, dude. Like, are you even using your head type deal with some of these things? Because like, but common sense isn't so common because everybody was raised differently. Okay, so like, what I think is common sense. Here's a great example. I remember my sister's boyfriend. My mom was working on the fridge, and my sister's boyfriend had needed to go to the bathroom and stepped right over my mother while she was under the fridge, and was like, "Oh, excuse me," and just like stepped right over her while she's like working on the fridge. Didn't say, "Hey, need any help with that?" or anything like that. And I just thought that was the rudest thing ever in my life based on how I was raised. And then when I talked to him about it, like he was like, "Oh my gosh, like I didn't mean it in any way, shape, or form. I was just literally stepping over her." But do you see how two different people, he didn't mean any harm by that, right? But just because we were raised different or we've been in different situations throughout our life, I thought that was the craziest thing I've ever seen and was like, dude, I need to, like, this kid needs to be smacked for that. You know what I mean? But in his head, he thought he did absolutely nothing wrong. And once you brought it up to him, he could see, looking from the lens of my eyes of how I'm saying it, I was like, dude, I can totally see where that would have been rude. Like, I'm sorry, Miss Kelly. You know what I'm saying? But like, I feel like sometimes in business, when you first start, you get that initial, like, what is wrong with you? Like, how do you not understand this? You're a painter too. But like, I've seen painters that have been painting for 30 years that ain't so good. You know what I'm saying?
Common sense isn't so
So
common.
common all the time, right? So when you learn that and you have a little bit more patience with those kind of things and look at them as learning experiences for everybody, right? So that's kind of what I do. So like when something goes wrong in my company, even if it's a painter, right? Like just a normal painter, not even a crew lead, anything. Let's say they do something wrong. I first take look at it from my lens. Okay, did I set proper expectations down the line, right? Does ops, PM, like let's see where we were missing something at. Was it the crew lead, right? And then we kind of try and systematically find where that hole was. It might have just been that, hey man, I forgot. He told me multiple times, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's an easy fix. Hey, let's try not to let that happen again, right? He level expectations, but sometimes it's more than that, right? Sometimes someone lacked, because we always make every day our crews get there, the crew leaders and the crew, they have a plan. They make their plan, right? Project plan, real quick. And they'll be like, okay, this is the plan of action for today. You're going to be doing trim. You're going to be doing the mudding. You're going to be doing X, Y, and Z, right? And then they give them a timestamp. Hey, you should be able to have that trim done by 12, right? Yep. Everybody okays the plan. Everybody okays the time frame that they're willing to get everything done so that we can be where we need to be by the end of the day, right? Well, if you miss that plan, it's everybody just going. You know what I'm saying? So like that's one of the things we look like. Okay, was the plan delegated, right? Did everybody agree on the plan and things like that? But I always say, like, I always look at myself and how I can say, I don't just say, like, oh, that guy's an idiot. Like, he's stupid, right? Because a lot of times it's not that. A lot of times it's, oh man, you know what? He was actually in the bathroom when we went over our plan. I did kind of let him know, but I didn't tell him that everything needed to be done by 12, right?
Mm.
So little things like that. And that's kind of like the biggest thing that we do is like, we're not like big on, oh my gosh, this is a crazy problem. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you type shit. No, like, we're more so like, okay, where do we miss something at? And if it's not like, okay, what's the teachable moment? And let's have, a little powwow and make sure we're all on the same page with, what happened to ensure that doesn't happen again.
And how long do you give them on that? How do you put your common sense in to know when it's time to cut?
So typically, it will go up the ladder, right? And usually by the time it gets to me, it's something that might have happened a few times, right? And typically, like Cameron, our ops manager, he does a really good job of facilitating these things. I mean, things that come on to like really me is more so, okay, let's facilitate a meeting and let's like see what's going on. Because like I'm a big, like I know what my guys are doing. I know the culture, like how's their family doing? Like I know everybody at my company. Like I don't do the whole like I just sit behind my desk. Like every time on Monday, like, hey man, how was your weekend? Like, how's it, Paul? I know you were going somewhere with your kids. Like, how was that? How's Dave and Buster's? All that. So what we do is we facilitate a meeting, and first thing I ask is like, hey, how's everything going? Like, how's everything at home? Like, is there something going on? Because I know you. A lot of our workers have been here a while, right? So if they're continuously making the same mistake, typically it's something going on at home. Could be their kid sick. It could be their kids doing bad in school. You know what I mean? Like one of our guys are having some kid problems. He's like 16 years old and he's just having a tough time with them, right? So he's a lot more putting his headphones on and just kind of getting busy right now. And you got to know the heartbeat of your company, and that's part of it, right? You got to be a person. People are people. They're not just numbers that make you money. And that's the biggest thing that I think is missed sometimes is everybody wants to be like, oh, you did the same thing wrong 5 times. Well, did you did you figure out what is that about? He's been at your company 3 years. He's never done this. There's got to be something that's going on, right? And I think that's one thing that's missed by a lot of business owners, um, and just people in general is they're people. You have to have one-on-ones. You got to talk to them. You got to see where their goals change sometimes. You know what I'm saying as well too, because we set people up at our company, like for instance, one of our guys, our salesman, want to buy a house this year. So I literally made the goals, and built him out, his 12-month goal sheet, right? For him to buy a house. Okay. But what's great is him wanting to buy a house aligns with the goals that I was going to set for him anyway. But instead of making it about the goals that the company wants to make, if I'm like, hey man, you're 20 grand short this month on getting that house, right?
That's a bigger multiplier
That's a
of
big difference in like, oh man, I got to go get that ammo, make some calls, blah, 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 right? Then me being like, hey man, you're 20 grand short on your goal for the company. It's just different. You know what I'm saying? So we do a lot of that. Like we had my ops manager is only 23 years old. He started as doing door hangers 3 years ago. Sharp kid, awesome kid. Got him under my wing. He's probably going to be someone that's going to take over this, day to day, eventually, I would say 100%. And in 3 years, he bought his first house. He just closed on his first house at 23 years old, bro. You know what I mean? And that means a lot to me because when I started this company, and I pray every day, is that God puts me in a position to help as many people as I can. And when I hear people doing things like that, especially in this day and age, like houses ain't like they were 15 years ago when interest rates were a little bit lower, house prices were a little bit lower. Like for him to have enough money and enough confidence in his position at my job to do that, I thought that was awesome.
that is an incredible feeling. You're impacting not only your clients, not only your family, but you're impacting everyone that comes in contact with you. And that's truly through God.
Yes, 100%.
And without that faith that you have, that blind faith of just leaving a union job where you have a, you know, contingency of, hey, I've got backup plans essentially. You just left that, moved all the way into your own thing, and now you're impacting the next generation. You're impacting people that are probably older than you too.
100%.
And if you had to go back and start again, would you do anything differently? Would you keep it the same? Would you
Um, let's see. I don't know if I necessarily do anything crazy different. The one thing was is I painted a little bit. I like painting, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm a painter, bro. I like painting. I'm a business owner now. I call myself and I think I'm a great business owner and that's the spot that I need to be. But bro, I'll be honest with you. I like throwing down with a couple of my buddies and stuff like that. Like, and I know people like have their own saying on that. But dude, I could throw my headphone. I was a good painter, man. I mean, the whole reason why I'm where I'm at today was I was so good at painting that I would just listen to podcasts, Gary V, Tony Robbins. So I did that for years. Okay. And I was such a good painter. When you're good enough at painting, you don't have to think about painting. You can listen to exactly what you're listening on your pod or the podcast and stuff and get everything done in the same efficiency that you were, and you can really listen. So those were really, if it wasn't for the union, especially because the union's more like you get there, okay, we get everybody going, and then it's just you got you and your headphones for the rest of the day. To be honest with you, and you know what you need to get done. And the only reason I even started my own company, I did not have aspirations for this. Like I enjoyed painting, I enjoyed doing side work, I liked being able to shut everything off when I went home. Now I didn't know that there was a difference at the time, but it was nice to just not have to even touch my phone at all for the night. Because when you first start, that's not an option when you first start. I mean, it can be, just prolongs things a long time. But my biggest thing was when I started was I was like really young and I was running all these big jobs. And I was like, went to my boss and there was an estimator position that opened up in the union company, right? And I was like, would always sit at the 9:15 breaks and I'd talk to these guys that have been here for 30 years because I'm young. I'm like, let me get some wisdom from these guys. So I'd be like, hey man, like what's one of your guys' regrets? And dude, every single person, I wish I spent more time with my family and I wish I spent more weekends with my family. I mean, through the board, there wasn't one person that said any different. Okay. And you're talking about 40 different people. They're all saying the same thing. So when they said that, I was like, man, I'm going to do this for like another, like, bro, I'm young. I'm going to be doing this for another 25, 30 years. So when that position opened up, I went to my boss and I was like, hey, so like, there's an estimator position opening up. Do you think that like I could possibly, apply for that position? And he was like, no. And I was like, okay. So I was like, this guy ran his company off fear. He was cool sometimes, but he was mostly fear monger dick, to be honest. Okay. And so I go, okay, well, can I at least take the estimator class on my own time? So when this, because I'm young, when this opportunity, you know, comes up again, I'm able to do it. And he said, no, straight up no. Like, not even like, I'll think about it, like straight dick, like, no. And I was
Not
like,
happening.
cool, man. And I like walked and I was young. So I was very upset because I worked my ass off. I had some big jobs under my belt and because when you sit on these meetings, you know what they're making. I mean, just in the tickets alone, I knew what they were making, right? So it really rubbed me the wrong way. And at the time, I had about 3 weeks of like, if I stopped working, I had 3 weeks of work for myself and one other guy, right? So I was like, you know what? Went home, talked to my wife. And the funniest part about this is my mom, don't do it. Don't do it. You got all these kids, like you got a good thing, like don't do it. My dad, "Oh, I don't know, man. The union, like I hear that's like the best painting position you can get. Like I wouldn't do it." My wife had my back, but you could tell she was scared,
Mm.
right? And so I got all this stuff, but in my head I said, "What's the worst that can happen? I made this company a bunch of money. I'm running all these big jobs. They're going to give me my job back. There's another company that was offering me position, a big union company that was offering me position. I go, told my wife, I go, worst case scenario, this doesn't work out. And I go back and make, because I was already a journeyman. I'm like, they can't pay me no less. You know what I'm saying? So I'll just go back there and do my thing. I was like, but I'm going to take a chance on myself. Like, it just rubbed me the wrong way that like he didn't see this young guy running these big jobs, even as an option, like later. And I was like, this isn't a company I want to grow with. Like, that's what was in my head.
It makes me think so deeply about how God has this internal plan,
I swear.
and He knew you needed that fire under your ass to go make that leap. And
Yep.
holy smokes, it gives me goosebumps just like thinking about it,
Dude, it was
what
crazy.
it takes to get there, and thinking about the podcast that you were listening to during the when I was in the union. That's all I did.
Yep.
One headphone in, and kind of try to hide it because they don't really want you
Yeah.
on the
See, I was
headphone.
lucky. Like, I'll be honest, the union company I work for, uh, like once they were there, they were gone. Like they just were like, and if you didn't run your job on time, they would just get someone else to do it and you'd be fired. Like it was pretty much, you were cutthroat, dude. Like where I worked, I'm not gonna lie. There was no like, if you called in, they would literally be like, okay, well when it gets slow, like hopefully you're one of the guys that make the cut. Like literally, that's how they would talk to most people, bro. It was crazy. So, but I was so glad that I did do that. And funny part is the first job that I was in because I was already doing this job on the side when I put in my 2 weeks, right? So, and it was a pretty big job. And this was like COVID days, right? So, um, well, not exactly, but like right after. So, not everybody decided like, I'm going to be a drywaller and drywall my basement. And so they I got like 3 guys to come in there and they all said it needed to be ripped out. I was like, look, dude, you really do need to get this ripped out. But if you don't want to pay the money to get ripped out, like I'll do it, but it's not gonna look perfect, right? Worst decision I ever made in my life. I'll tell you that right now. I should have just said no like everybody else. But we get in this job. I'm 2 weeks. I mean, I thought it was gonna be a week. I'm 2 weeks into this thing and haven't got any money. We're sanding all this dust everywhere. I've already primed a lot of things because I just didn't. I'm like a perfectionist. So like I seen it, I was like, this isn't good enough. So I primed it because I wanted to see with some paint on it, mudded more stuff. I only quoted him for 2 coats, but I put 3 or 4 everywhere because it needed it because it was just so badly hung. And we get there. I had the guy with me that was gonna start working for me, and the guy comes up to me and he's like, "It's our last day. Like we literally have like an hour left, and we're gonna be done with this job." And he comes up, he's like, man, and this was what's crazy is this guy was a Jehovah Witness, which and would talk to me about God all the time. Um, and I'm a God guy, so I got down with that. And he came down, he's like, I talked to my wife, like, this just isn't working out. And I'm like, I forget what his name was, but I'm not even gonna name drop him. But I was like, sir, like, we're literally 30 minutes from being done. I didn't charge you for all the extra coats that I put on here. I primed the whole basement for you, which wasn't on the quote as well. I go, what do you mean it's not working out? Like, what does that mean? And he's like, well, we owe you $2,700 right now. We're thinking like we're good with 1,300. And I'm like, and like now, younger kid, just quit my job. All these people telling me that this wasn't going to work, right? All hammering down on my shoulders now. And I'm like, to this guy's name, I'm like, sir, yeah, that's not gonna work for me, bro. I'm like, I'm 30 minutes away from being done. I did all this extra work, didn't ask you to do anything, right? Or anything like that. I'm like, there's no chance that I take $1,300 for this. He's like, well, that's what I think we're willing to do for you. So now we get because we're going back and forth a little bit. And I'm not gonna lie, after because I was like, dude, but like the contract says like all this stuff, and I did all this extra stuff, like on top of the price. Like, wouldn't you feel like you should pay me? Like, I told you, like this looks 1,000 times better than it did. Like, just because I was here a little bit longer, because I had to do all this extra work to make it look good. And he was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't care what the contract says. And that is when I kind of was like,
He
well,
threw his head through the drywall.
like I wanted to, but I didn't. No, we got into a little bit of a argument, and he wanted to go upstairs and go outside, which I was totally fine with. Not like fight outside, just like he asked me to go outside. So originally my head's like, is this guy gonna fight me like over this? Like, am I gonna like literally have to throw out? I'm like, no. So we went outside and I just like calmed down and I calmed him down. I said, listen, man, I have busted my butt all week. Okay, I mean these last 2 weeks, I've done a lot of extra work. Okay, you owe me 27. If you feel like you need, I'll take 2 grand and we'll call it even. And he was like, nope, I want to give you 1,600. Blah blah blah. We ended up going back and forth. He ended up eventually giving me $2,000, right? So it's still $700 short. Still did way extra work to do it, and I was still very very unhappy about the situation. But I would probably say it was a very good learning experience for me, because the professionalism that I had to have in that instant, because Union Nick would have been a whole different story, okay? But I knew that I was trying to build something great. And because I had mass confidence in myself, very confident, competitive person. And I knew that I was like, the whole time, speaking things into existence is a real thing. Okay. And I used to talk to myself with the utmost respect. Like, you are the greatest. Like, you are going to catapult, like, you're going to leave a legacy for your family. Like, you can do this. If there's anyone that can do it, you can do it. And I would always just think that. So, like, when it was never a thought of like I couldn't do it. But in that instance, a lot of that went through me. And I realized that I had to be a completely different person than I was Union Nick in order to make those goals that I had in my head become a reality.
To be elite.
Yes, to be elite. And because me, myself, Union Nick would have handled that situation completely different, right? Union, you got to have tough skin. Some guys, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Bark at each other. You know what it is. And it was just crazy, man. I was really proud of myself. And that's when I knew that I could do it. I knew it. I mean, the first job didn't go according to plan. Still had faith. Still got through it. Never had been through a situation like that, and I handled myself with a lot more grace than I thought that I would have. And that was what I needed as my first job to really understand what I was getting into. That, because it was different. You know what I'm saying? It was a whole different ball game, and the whole thought process. Oh, I'm going to get a couple guys. I'm going to have them do these jobs, and I'm going to golf 3 times a week. I knew it was not a reality after that one encounter, right? So I thought that was a really cool kind of way to get into running your own business, right? Cool story though, right?
Without a doubt, that was a really cool story, and
Yeah.
it makes me think the answer to the question is no. I wouldn't change a thing.
No, 100%.
5 kids, don't miss a single thing. How do you juggle that?
So I'm a big mindset guy. I'm like, and in my company, our company culture, and what we always say is, in their first interview, you're giving me the opportunity to positively peer pressure you to be your best each and every day you work here, not only at work but outside of work as well. That's what you're signing up for.
Can you repeat that one for me?
Yeah, so you're giving me permission to positively peer pressure you to be your best each and every day, inside and outside of work. That's what you're looking for in this position. You're signing up for, right? And I say that to people because it's true. If you want to be mediocre, you want to just get by, like, this just isn't it. If you're literally trying to, like, not only be like, if let's say your sales, like, you want to be the best salesman, like, bro, I'm going to give you the recipe to do that. It's going to take a little bit of hard work, right, to do that, because in order to be better than everybody else, we got to put in a little bit more work than everybody else, wouldn't you say?
Hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard.
100%. So what we look for is the avatar of those kind of people, right? What I've learned is I've dialed in my systems good enough, whether it be a painter, whether it be sales, whether it be a project manager, that if we find the right individual that is willing to take a shot on himself and give 110% effort to want to be the best person because not everybody wants to be that. Some people are cool with being content, and that's fine. Like I got a couple buddies like that, and they're chilling. You know what I'm saying? Me, I'm like, bam, this goal. Okay, cool. On to the next thing. Like I'm very much like this. There's nothing that really takes me super high. There's nothing that takes me super low. It's kind of just I kind of just keep it here most of the time. And it took me a long time to get there, right? Because at first the Italian in me, something would go wrong and I'd be like, fuck, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then what I realize is that all these problems, all of this is a thinking. Like you just got to think your way through it. Okay. And I always like the Dan Martell 131 rule, right? So, like, what's the problem? What are the three solutions that you would have with it? And what's the one that you picked? So, like, our whole company is ran off that basis. So, no one's even allowed to call me without a 131. Like, if I get a call and the first thing that I don't hear is like, hey, Nick, this is the problem. These are my three solutions. This is what I'm picking. I will literally hang up, text them, try again, and then they will call me back and they'll do that because that is a learning situation. That is them critically thinking through a problem that they had, right? But for me, with doing everything, it's just I don't have any excuses, right? My whole goal of having a company was to be able to devote more quality time with my family, taking my children to school every morning, which I do. I am a coach for 8U travel ball for my one son. I coach JV football for my other son. I am practically a coach that practices pretty much every day a week, all year round, on top of the job that I have as well. But my thing is that if you want to do something, everything's an excuse. I work out too. Right. Okay. So I don't let my mind play tricks on me. Like if I want to do something, I can do it. It's just, am I willing to put in the work to do that? Am I willing to sacrifice the time that's needed to do that? And I think that what people don't realize is that there's so many excuses floating around because I've been that guy. Like the workout thing, I was like, how am I going to work out? I have 5 kids. And because I used to be big into working out before I had kids, I had a lot more time, right? I could go with my friends and spend an hour and a half, 2 hours there, and I wasn't missing anything. And I know you know this having kids, but like, I feel like sometimes, like after work, I'm almost being selfish with my time sometimes if I'm going to do other things and not spending time with them. Because to me, your kids are in certain phases of their life, of their childhood for only so long. So everyone's like, oh, well, they're going to be a kid for 18 years. But a 4 year old, a 7 year old, and an 11-year old are three different people.
Mm,
You feel what I'm saying?
without a doubt.
So I know that because I have 5 kids. So trust me. So like to me, I won't, I'm not willing to sacrifice that little bit of time or window that I have that specific child in that development stage, right? I'm not willing to sacrifice that. And I'm totally content with spending time with my wife, her going to bed at 10:30 and working for an extra 2 hours. I'm totally content with getting up early to go to the gym, come back home, hang out with my kids, get them ready, take them to school, and go to work. Like that's what I want to do. You know what I'm saying? So I just do what I set out to do. I want to work out. It's something that I need for myself. So I'm going to do it. If that means I have to get up at 5 a.m. and I have to do it like that way, that's what I'm willing to do because I'm setting an example for my kids to not have an excuse to not do something that they love as well.
Live a life by design.
100%. 100%. So that's like my biggest thing is that I walk the walk at my company and I walk the walk at home as well. I try to be the best husband, not only just provider. I try to help my wife. Sometimes I get home and I'm sure you feel it too. Your wife's tired. You can see it in her face, right? So I'm like, "Hey, kids, let's all go up to the park." And I'll take the kids up to the park and I'll give her, a couple hours or to herself or whatever that looks like. And I know that doesn't go unnoticed. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So,
The
but
hardest part I've had here lately is I never had any of the kids were breastfed, but now our youngest is breastfed.
mhm,
And I've been having a really hard time, you know, separating a bit
mhm.
because she is overwhelmed a bit. You know, she's with the baby 24/7. Getting her to release a little bit has been really hard. Do you have any tips for me about that?
So funny part story was my wife had a hard time breastfeeding. So one was had more milk than the other, I guess you could say, right? Okay. And dude, she wanted to so bad, and I'd seen her getting so tired. And what's crazy is like me and my wife kind of came to the realization having so many kids that like I would get up and try and, at early stages feed my, daughter or my sons, right? They didn't want nothing to do with me. So what I would do is the times that they didn't want anything to do with me was all her. But there were times when like when she would first get up, because I knew she was doing some feeding at night, right? Where I would take the reins, right? I would kind of, and I wouldn't even give her a choice. I'm just like, hey, because it only takes me like 5 minutes. Literally, I put my stuff out, I brush my teeth, I shower the night before. So I'm like ready in all of 7 minutes.
Yep.
Okay. So in the 7 minutes I get ready, I let her either sleep in a little bit, get up and have a cup of Joe and just scroll through her phone for a second, just give her a little bit of that mental separation. But that was like non negotiable for us. So I would get up, I would go, get our daughter, get our son. I would, get his bottle. We had one of those, little things where you could kind of, the bags where you could kind of store the milk so you'd kind of heat, have it all ready to go. And I would just get it ready like that. And then if it wasn't something that was asked, but after 2 weeks, you could see it made a substantial difference, and it meant something to her as well. So sometimes, just like women, how they always say about like, just tell us where we're going on a date, right? That's the same thing you kind of got to do with the mother and the child type deal. It's like as much as you think they don't want that. Hey, babe, I got heard this morning. Either sleep in or do your thing for a second. I'm gonna take care of this. Right before we leave, I'll come over and get you.
Some intentional.
Do it for 2 weeks, and I'm telling you, that second week she's gonna pop up, probably give you a little kiss on the neck, like you're the best ever, right? Because it's just something that they don't even know they need until they get the time that's needed. You know what I mean?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. What about you? What's something that do you ever do anything besides the gym that is for yourself?
I like to golf a little bit. I'm not the greatest golfer, but I like to golf. But really, I just work out, man. And I'll just be honest with you, like everybody always asks, like, what a hobby is. My hobbies are like hang out with my kids. Like
Me too, man.
I like yesterday, like all three of my kids needed a haircut, my boys. So I went and picked up my daughter early. We went out, had a like little daddy daughter day. We went and got food. We went to the park, played with her. Then my kids got home, and then I individually like worked on baseball with one of the kids, and the other kids like that's fun to me. Like that is like I want to like because you just don't you know this like you remember weird things when you're a kid like just like weird stuff, right? Not things that you would think you would remember, like all the fun stuff you did. You remember weird things sometimes, right? So I want to make as many lasting memories with my kids. So, because sometimes the memory I might think that's going to matter the most to them ain't going to be it.
Most of the
It
time.
it might be the car ride home, or it might be you just taking that little extra time to like do something when they know you're tired. You just don't know what that's going to be. So for me, like that's why I will when I'm tired, it like I'm not too tired to play with my kids. That's not a thing for me. Like that's not even a question for me. You know what I'm saying? Like if my kids ask me to do something, I'm gonna do it. Like unless it's like 9 o'clock at night and mom's gonna get mad at me because they want to go outside and hit balls. Like then I'm like, we'll do it tomorrow. Like I got you. But that is the most important thing to me. Like I can make a bunch of money, I could run all these great companies, but the thing that matters the most to me is when my kids get older, are they looking forward to every time that they can come and spend more time with their dad? Do they think that are they gonna think like, man, they don't know now, but I guarantee you later in life that my kids are gonna be like, dude, I don't know how my dad did it. That's the greatest guy I ever met. That's the only person I care about. That would be to say that. I could care less about what anybody else thinks to me. Like Bill Gates or any of these guys, Elon Musk, right? Could be like, oh, this guy's gonna be the next best thing. That wouldn't mean shit to me compared to my kids saying that about me. You know what I'm saying?
I think of it as will they bring their kids back to me?
Yes.
That's something that I truly think about. My grandparents made it where I always wanted to be around, right?
Yep.
And the fact that they were able to build that legacy and like how did they do it, right? How did they still like intentionally sit there on the swing and like whittle a stick with me?
Yeah.
Sit here and just enjoy my time with every little bit of them. And then I wanted to bring my kids, their great grandkids around. So the impact that they had all the way down to their great grandkids, that's the impact that I'm shooting for. So I love hearing that
Love
you're
that.
having that same exact.
Yeah, and I mean, me and my dad I love my dad to death, but we're two different dads. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm more like the lovey-dovey, like hugger, kisser type guy. I know my dad loves me, but he loves me differently than I love my children. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there was nothing. nothing wrong with my dad. Like we hang out, like, oh, that's great. It's just that I just parent a little bit different than how he parented me. You know what I'm saying? And I spent a lot of time with my mother, so maybe some of that, comes from my mom as well. You know what I'm saying? The
Definitely.
the lovey dovey and all that jazz is. But that's the most important thing. My children, um, and leaving that. If all is said and done, and everybody around me says, because I believe you do good, you get good back. I haven't always done good. I haven't always been this person. Okay. When I was younger, I was a young punk. And I'll honestly be real, I was a piece of shit. Like that's how I literally feel. The type of person I was. I was very selfish. I was not, my morals weren't from the Bible, right?
Mm.
Okay. So I just wasn't a good individual. And the thoughts that went in my head said that. I would think differently than most people in a very negative and bad way. And like I said, your mind's a muscle. So I just kept practicing. Like, yeah, this is bad. That's stupid. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, right?
What helped you with that?
Um, Self-reflection. I kind of almost had like a somewhat of like a family intervention, right, when I was younger. And I remember my uncle, and he was saying, we need to just wash our hands with this kid. Like he's causes nothing but problems for this family and heartache and turmoil. And in my uncle Steve, God rest his soul, he passed away. This was my other uncle, but I remember him stopping and being like that and saying to my mom, like, that is her kid. He is 15 years old. Like, you're going to tell her to give up on her 15-year-old kid? Like, what were we doing when we were kids? Like, he's going to get it right. And that little bit of confidence that my uncle Steve, which I'm very much like, we're very much alike. That was someone I very looked up to when I was younger. And that was all I needed. I was self-reflected and seen like, okay, I am actually that. Like I am causing turmoil. I am like very selfish. Like I'm not thinking about anybody else but myself. And I decided that day that I was going to change.
Talk
And
about those little moments that you were talking about with your kids. That was one of those moments
yes,
that you would never expect to.
that was really the game changer. And it's so crazy because my mom, thank God for my mother, because she just never gave up on me. She knew, because there was a period I was good, and then there's a period where I became a young punk in like high school because I hung out with the wrong people. You know what I mean? And I let it influence like my whole life. And my mom always would just, I remember just like so many times my mom being like you're not like this. Like this is not you. But in my head, I'm like, but this is what I do. Like this is who I am. And when I finally realized that your brain is can actually be against you in some ways as well, and I learned that it was a muscle that you could kind of train to do better. And I kept doing that. And after about 2 years, like I had good thoughts. I was doing good. I was a good person. I had constantly, repeatedly done the next right thing. That's what I say all the time. God help me to do the next right thing no matter what, right? And it just flipped, and now I am here, who I am today. And it's just so crazy because it almost feels like that's like a comic book that I read. That isn't even a true, like that didn't really happen. Like who I was before and who I am now. But what's so great is my children only have seen this me. They've never seen the bad me. That was when I was a lot younger, but yeah, it's just super cool. Like God is real.
I've never gotten so many goosebumps during one of these podcasts. I literally just resonate so heavily with your story. It's unreal. I love that you've had this story of coming from the depths to
Yeah.
the
And
person that we wouldn't even recognize that 15-year-old.
100%. And the biggest thing too is like anybody can do anything they put their mind to. If you believe in God, God will get you there. Now, He might not get you there the way that you want to be, okay? There's gonna be some things that are gonna happen that you're not gonna understand. You're like, why is this happening, right? But like in the grand scheme of things, when I look back, all of the things when I felt that way, like, why is this happening to me? Like, what is going on, right? Now, when I reflect back, like, that was a setup. God was setting me
It was
up.
your alley oop.
God was setting me up, dude. He was throwing me alley oop, right? For something at the time I thought this was the worst thing ever. Like, oh my gosh, my world is crumbling down. Like, why is this happening, right? And meanwhile, it's God's great plans for all these great things. Like, dude, if you would have told me at 16, 17 years old that this is where I would be, this would be the type of father that I would be and everything, I would have bet you my whole life savings, which wouldn't have been much.
25 bucks.
Yeah, the 25 bucks I had, that would have never been a thing, you know, but I work hard to be the person that I am today. Okay. Like I want to intentionally be a good human being. I try to give good back out to the world. I understand good vibrations, right? Like my group is a lot of people that are, you know, goal setters, positive people, right? And I'll be honest with you, if you're a negative person or you have that negative mentality, um, I mean, I'm nice and cordial to you, but I just won't I won't like try to be around you. Like that's just who I am. And even in the painting industry, there's a lot of great people that I love to death, and there's some people that I kind of keep my distance away a little bit because that's just not. Um, I'm not trying to deal with that the stress that some people can exude to other people as well. But one buddy ran a business, and he was like, he was the reason I never wanted to have my own business until I've seen other people running businesses not like him, you know. But he was always so stressed out, always mad, always upset, and that's someone I don't talk to today because I just don't want my life to be like that or be around that. I like all positivity. Like when I talk to someone, what you put into your brain and you speak is how you feel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you're very reluctant to have people who have this negative energy and things like that.
Do you ever have that 15-year-old kid mind like kind of come up a little bit and you're like, wow, I'm so different than what I was back then. Am I still Nick?
Oh, 110%. So I do a gratitude mindful meditation in the morning, right? It's like 10 to 12 minutes and they walk you through it. And three of the things that they do is they'll put you in your past self, right? They'll have you picture it. They'll have you make the facial expression of like who you moved on from, right? Okay. Then they also have you put yourself in the three most grateful positions. One's always me holding, I can literally see exactly what I was wearing. It was like American flag shirt, backwards, Washington Nationals hat when I was holding my son Dominic for the first time. And dude, I could cry about it, to be honest with you. I love my kids so much. Sorry. But that it it makes me so grateful from where I came from. Because I'll be real with you, man, I was broke. You know, my family, my parents got divorced. My mom had four kids. We lived in a one bedroom apartment with three other kids when I came up, right? So like all I know is broke. So I remember the first time I had to pay for a marketing company and like they were like, oh, it's just I think it was cheap too. It was like $1,500 retainer. And I was like, added that for about 12 months. And I'm like, that's a lot of money. I mean, I was a marketer's worst nightmare when I first got to them because I didn't think ROI. I thought money I was spending, right?
Mm.
I'm like, hey, like, I've never even, $12,000, I've never even seen that. That's what I'm paying you. You know what I mean? Blah, 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 right? Um, but now, like, I'm just so grateful to be in the position because, like, to me, like, money isn't like a thing anymore. It's just like an object. It motivates some people. Some people don't get motivated by it, but like, I'm not like a big flashy guy. I had bought a couple things for myself that, like, you have those things when you're a kid. You're like, oh, if I ever get this, I'm gonna buy this, right? Which mine's all like Italian stuff, like a Rolex, gold Rolex, big fat like pinky ring, right? Like just stupid things. But the funny part was when I bought those, I thought it was gonna feel different, right? So like I don't have like I bought 2017. I think it had like 50,000 miles on it. Uh Ford F-250. Like yeah, can I go get a Denali truck? Absolutely. But I don't care about that because when I bought those things, I'll never forget. I sat in my car when because I got them like both in the same week. I sat in my car and I was like, man, like that's it. Like that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then I remember I was talking to one of my mentors and he said this, and I'll never forget it. And he was like, so why do you think it felt like that? I was like, I don't know. And he's like, let me tell you something. He's like, fancy cars, pinky rings, all of those things. If it's something that means something to you, that's great. But the only things people that impresses are people that don't have money. Like, do you want to go around being flashy to people that don't have money? Like, that's exactly who you tell me you don't want to be. And when he said that, I really thought about it and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, really think about it. I mean, the people who can't afford the Lamborghini are the ones that are going to be like, oh my gosh, that Lamborghini, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of times, I mean, I know a guy with a Lamborghini. I've never even talked to him about it. Like I've seen him drive it. I've never said anything to about it. So unless you really like a Lamborghini, which I'm not a big car guy, like I'm not gonna go buy a Lamborghini just because like, hey, that's cool. Like Mercedes, like those are really cool cars, right? I've never I could care less about having one. You know, I like my F-250. You know what I mean? I'll probably get a 2020 joint in a couple years or something like that. But that's just who I am. And what I want to do is save my money, invest my money so that my kids see some money. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I don't need to live flashy and look like the coolest guy in the room. But that's just how I feel. Now I don't knock anybody who does that because they might love cars. They might love these things. Those things just don't like, you know, my one buddy's like, you should get a boat. Now I do like the water. I will say that, but I've never owned a boat. So it's like, yeah, when the day and time it comes where I can really kind of like spend some time and understand the mechanics and all that of a boat, maybe I'll do that. But yeah, I just don't. That's just I've bought a few things and it just didn't make me feel like anything. So I just choose to save and invest.
You made me think of this thing I heard. He bought a Rolex, and that was his goal. He was so excited by the Rolex. He's traveling around the world, and every time he goes into a hotel, he puts it into the safe, right? And then he's not even wearing it because he's like, oh, what if it gets scratched up? He's in the TSA of the airport going into his backpack. Oh my gosh, let me watch out.
Yeah.
And it's taking his time, taking his energy.
Yeah.
He's like, how much is that Rolex costing me?
Right.
It's costing me so much energy because, damn, did I forget it in the safe
100%.
when I'm leaving the hotel? Did I forget it in the safe? Am I so worried about messing it up that I'm not enjoying it?
Yep.
Oh my gosh, I could put on this what's those cheaper watch? I can't even think of the cheaper watch's name, but you get what I mean.
Yeah, Seiko or anything like that.
Yeah,
you know?
I was thinking of like a Swiss for some.
Swiss,
Yep,
yeah,
yep. So I put that on. Oh, it tells me the time. It's great, and it gets me thinking about Jesus. He doesn't want worldly possessions. He wants to make the impact. He wants, how can I serve? How
Yes.
can I serve? How can I do better? And
Yes.
that is everything to me. And your story resonates so much with me. We're gonna have to bring you back on.
Oh, I'd love to.
We're gonna have to bring you back on. I believe we're at our time. Sadly, man, it
Hey,
flew by. I've
hey.
never had one go so
Cruising.
doom.
Man. Yeah.
You gave me goosebumps. I'm sure you gave other people goosebumps. If you had to leave anybody off with something, what would it be?
Listen, if there's anything that I can tell anybody, you are the only person that is stopping you from the goals that you want to hit. Okay. With God and hard work, you can accomplish anything that you want. Everything else is an excuse. So if you're not trying to do or you're holding off on some goal, go and do it today. Make it happen today.
Yeah. Don't wait till tomorrow. Today's the best time. Yesterday was better, but today's great too.
Absolutely.
With that being said, I believe we've got the second coat on the walls. We're going to let it dry, let it, cure. We got to give it all the time to be the best finish as possible. We're going to get a little bit deeper later on with Nick because honestly, I got to bring you back on, bro.
Oh, please.
It's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
With that being said, go ahead and click that subscribe button, comment, follow Nick on Facebook. He's got some great content. He's always putting some inspirational stuff out there. Absolutely love it. And yeah, we'll see you on the next episode of Two Coats Deep.
See.